Well, boys, I'm sorry I couldn't make it into the Muppet Christmas Carol episode, but I do get that you have to make your billionth Christmas special. How's that going, by the way?
Not enough snacks and craft services. Not a jelly bean in sight. I miss my personal caterer. Now that guy could make food sing, and not in the singing fruit kind of way.
Yet another Christmas Carol of all things. If I had a nickel for every adaptation, I'd be Scrooge McDuck diving into his money bin. That's a crossover for another time. Ooh, but this new one's animated.
You do know that it's a remake of the 1970 musical, right?
It is?
Is there even a word for a remake of an adaptation? I mean, there's gotta be.
It's a whole different Scrooge than ours.
You could say that. You know, people were thirsty after Luke Evans' Scrooge, right?
We don't want to know. Humans are not snacks.
I'm gonna tell him.
Don't you dare! Anyways, I have this eggnog pie I just made. Would have gotten you some if you could have made the scheduling work out. I could always send you the recipe.
Ooh, B. Dylan Hollis. Big fan. Also, I think you better send it to me. Rizzo will plaster himself against the oven door if he has to wait any longer.
Hey, I'm not the one who almost got shish kebabbed after you lit the rat instead of the lamp.
Boys, it's no bake.
Gonzo, you better not brulee this pie. We don't need to bring out the fire torch after last time.
Oh no, I borrowed that from Grover. This is the one I use.
Oh no.
Say, by the way, when's the Gatsby episode coming up? It's been 84 years. My fur is gonna go gray before then.
Look, the SAG-AFTRA contract only just got ratified in time for us to be doing all the holiday episodes. It's coming, I promise. Now please stop playing with fire!
It's all
Touch
under
the
control.
pie, not the rat. Touch the
Here.
pie, not the rat!
Oh boy. Well folks, while I'm making sure that beloved Muppets Gonzo and Rizzo don't get torched, enjoy these holiday outtakes that wouldn't have made sense in any other outtake special. Happy New Year! Gonzo, please, I am begging you here. This is not very festive. I mean, I know that a lot of holiday festivities involve fire, but still.
In 2021, I went to London for a little winter holiday. Spent a dubious amount of money strictly to go see Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman because I have my reasons. Also, Neil Gaiman is Jewish. Mwah.
Technically, Neil Gaiman's grandparents are Jewish. His parents were Scientologists. He dumped Scientology, but isn't, and considers himself to be culturally Jewish, but I don't think he's religiously Jewish.
Not religious.
And that's a whole nother episode's conversation.
We don't have time to get into cultural versus religious.
No, God, no.
I was in London. Not a single Hanukkah decoration to be found.
Well, that's because the Brits threw their Jews out ages ago, and so the
and that was
ones that are
2021. So it's like it's still. And then we don't have to talk about. I'm gonna just say this: don't talk about the Hanukkah bush.
Oh, we're not doing that. We actually, this is probably something to cut. But when Jazz and I were initially talking about this, we were like, no story. Well, with Shamila, because she was doing a bunch of the research to get us children's book names specifically. But we decided, we decided definitively that we were not doing any child is sad because they don't get to celebrate Christmas, so they get a Hanukkah bush shit. Like, I had those books when I was growing up, and we are not talking about
it's a whole
this.
thing.
It's a whole thing, Callie.
It is actually a subgenre.
The Maccabees defeated the Romans, no, not Romans.
The Greeks.
The Maccabees defeated the Greeks' elephants with peanuts. That's a story that I heard when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's another folk story.
That's a delightful folk story.
But anyway,
my point is, it is still not so.
And I will say, I literally just went to Bath and Body Works. They finally actually started doing Hanukkah stuff for this time of year. It's like, wow.
Just remember this. I had a Jewish professor when I was testing out a paralegal program. So she gave us all of the Jewish holidays off. And I believe I had her in the spring semester. So that was that was kind of interesting to getting to hear about all of that. Like,
don't get me started about how we don't get really important Jewish holidays off in the fall.
That's not what I'm trying to do at all.
I know.
You're fine. Yeah, like
It's bullshit.
okay, so
They have
That's the
started
deli
to do
one.
Hanukkah holiday movies.
Yeah, but
well,
Deli
the
one?
first two that they did were actually Jews being forced to go to their significant other's Christmas party, and both of them had some pretty severe anti-Semitic dog whistles in them. But that's neither here nor
But
there.
no, I don't think
So-
it's the deli one, Callie, seeing as
Okay.
it's two Jewish leads. But anyway, go ahead. It's a long
Yeah.
story.
No, so you have to make them from scratch. If you make them from a mix, someone finds someone to excommunicate you. Oh no, Bex, I still love you. Why would you make them from scratch? It's just
My
potato,
mother
eggs,
hates to cook.
salt. Oh,
My mother hates
Okay,
cooking.
that explains it.
okay. I'm sorry to hear
And
that,
my
but
grandma
that
does
explains a lot.
latkes, and her recipe's a secret, so I don't really know how to do it.
You gotta ask
So
her
you
for
need
it.
to ask her for it. You need to
Well,
say,
I love how
you know,
I'll
I
talk
won't
to my
share it
buddy
with anyone. I
about that Hanukkah
promise.
this year.
I
Yeah,
love the
you should
potato
do that.
recipe though because I love potatoes. I'm Irish secret.
Okay, I will send you my latke recipe when we are done. Hell,
Deal.
Jazz, if you want it, I will send it to you.
Well, should we have
but-
a recipe post for this?
I mean, we absolutely can, but
Yeah.
you get funny little things popping up where, like, in Babylon 5, Ivanova is Jewish, canonically, and there is an actual Hanukkah in the background in the set of her bedroom, or her rooms on the space station. And it's discussed like once or twice that she's Jewish, but like it appears and it's like, whoa, Jews in space, and that are not space balls because we're not. But
Jurassic World Part 1.
but yeah. No, I like other Mel Brooks stuff better. But anyway, so yeah, no,
Like they didn't beat around. Oh God, I was going to use a bush metaphor, but then what we talked about earlier. So
no.
they beat around the house plant.
Yeah, it's one of the things that.
I'm sorry. I was just
No,
trying
no,
to.
you're
Like,
fine.
That was
You're
adorable.
fine. So, the.
And I was so confused too. I was like, I thought you were supposed to have real trees, and this is a fake
Don't laugh
tree.
at my face. I just have a related story. I'm sorry.
And there were so many, like, little random angels on the tree. But there was popcorn on the tree.
Yeah.
I was so confused. So it was so nice to see.
So I decorated my first Christmas tree. So Addie is an atheist, but her mother's Polish Catholic, and
Ooh.
Addie's my wife. You will
Wow.
perhaps have seen her by now, I think. But Christmas is a command performance, and she goes because it's important to her mom, and her mom, especially now that her kids are all grown up and there's a couple of little ones, is much more focused on the cultural aspects and the, like, get everybody together, have a big dinner, you know. There's a lot of stuff that is obviously comes from Christian tradition, but she doesn't take anybody to midnight mass anymore, and she was
Thank
very
God.
careful to make me comfortable,
Aw.
because
Nice.
the first year that Addie and I were dating, I came for Christmas. I was 20, and when my now mother-in-law realized that I'd never celebrated Christmas before, or like
Oh.
decorated a Christmas tree or something, she's like telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, Donna, I know. Donna, I've lived around Christians my entire life, I know. And she made me decorate the trees, the two trees in the house, and I'm going like, I told Addie this, I didn't tell my mother-in-law, because she meant well. She meant really well. Like, I want to make that really clear. This was her trying to be sweet and just
was
it
ignorance,
missed
not
the mark a little
malice.
bit. Like, there was no malice, no attempt to conversion, nothing like that. I mentioned to Addie that I don't think I need to. I'm not the youngest one here, and I just because I've never decorated a Christmas tree before doesn't mean my life is somehow incomplete until I decorate it. But she only made me do that the first 2 years, and then after that, she would leave me alone. But that's mostly because I would help cook, and so I do that instead. And then when we go to visit, I always do a latke night where I'm frying latkes for like 10, because Addie's got a bunch of siblings. siblings, and so you get just the immediate family together, and you're already at, like, especially now that we've got the little ones, we're over 10 already, and so I'm just like frying latkes forever, shoving them in the oven on warm so that I can serve them all at the same time, and I'm like, I don't care what you serve them with, but it can't be pork. And everybody just gorged themselves on fish on Christmas Eve, because that's Poles do Christmas Eve and a fish fast like the Italians do for Christmas Eve. And so either nice piece brisket or chicken, but not pork, just for the sake of we're not doing anything even remotely kosher, and we're gonna have sour cream available for people, but just don't serve a ham for this one.
I love brisket. Okay,
I don't like beef, but a well-made brisket, I'm told, is a good thing.
A well-made brisket will change your life.
Yes.
I have been told so, and then of course there's the marvelous Mrs. Maisel joke.
I am
that one.
Sorry,
but no. My brother's a professional cook. He worked at a Texan-style barbecue place here in Seattle for a while. And they had a smoker built into the kitchen with special ventilation. But anyway, all right. All when I was growing up, when we would light yurtzeit candles, we'd take the glass and set it in the sink because it has to burn for 24 hours. But the Hanukkah candles are only a couple of hours, and as long as there's always someone in the same room, like my family determined it's safe. But we definitely had like a special tray that the thing sat on, and it was in a special place on the counter so it wasn't near any of the other stuff on the counters or whatever. I don't know if this is a Jewish fear of house fires or something like that, or
for me, I think it was just that we had marble countertops, and you don't want to spray
wax. That would be bad.
So that was what my mom was like, okay, we say the prayers, we light the candles, it looks pretty,
then we hide them,
and then the menorah goes in the sink. Don't forget to put the menorah in the sink.
Some families that light multiple menorahs, which is for next year.
My brother and I did have our own
put in the windows. We had the family one, and then I got two when I was B'nai Mitzvah. Many years ago, and one of them was very Art Deco and weird, and the other one looked like the city of Jerusalem, all of the quarters represented, and the Wailing Wall and everything, and my mother will not ship it to me. Because she's like, it's too pretty, it might break, and I'm like, so I have this menorah that looks like an very old style oil lamp, where the wick runs through to the reservoir, like the ones they dig up every time they put a shovel down in Italy or the Levant or something. But it's made out of metal, so it's really chunky, but it can be wrapped up in a sweater and brought to the East Coast if I happen to be on the East Coast for Christmas during Hanukkah. Because most travel menorahs are absurdly expensive for what they are, and so this one is technically not a travel menorah, but it's just a hunk of metal that I have to explain to TSA every time we fly. Anyway, so that's random.
TSA likes to go through my Schmack Race cookies, so I understand.
Criminal. But anyway.
This is going out of favor, but it was popular in the 90s, which is why the Rugrats Hanukkah special is spelled differently title than what this episode is likely going to be called and what then the meta text is going to include, because Hebrew is transliterated into English. And like any language that uses a different alphabet or symbol set, sometimes you have sounds where there aren't matching symbols. And so I recall this in the 90s. I don't know what it was like prior to that because I was not extant and paying attention, but there was much debate about, there were like 4 different common ways to spell Hanukkah, and I don't know if this is because of the internet or what, but it seems to be standardizing down, and you almost always see the spelling we'll be using unless it's like some kind of non-Jewish organization that hasn't got a clue, or an organization that has been calling itself another spelling, or an event that's been calling itself another spelling for a very, very, very long time. But the spelling that's used in the Rugrats special is the CH, which was the other most common one, and technically the preferred typographical thing is an H with a dot underneath it, but that's not available for most keyboards, so you just make the H and you just have to know which one is which. They're basically like a jam-filled jelly donut with powdered sugar on top. But apparently in Israel, they're like this whole like decorative, like the craziness with the cupcakes from the early aughts, if anybody remembers that nonsense, where the cupcake would have like icing like a foot high and all these like cookies sticking out of it and shit. They apparently do that with sufganiyot in Israel, which came from trying to get people to buy them in bakeries instead of make them at home, is actually where that comes from. Oil lamps are a pain in the ass to deal with, and so a lot of people don't use them anymore. And so sometimes they'll have little cups that actually have solid, quick melting something in them, like the way that you get those big 3-wick candles and then they form a liquid on top, or like massage candles. They'll do that kind of thing where it's a solid until you light it and then it turns into a liquid and then it burns off just like any other fuel. You can see those pre-made now. But fiddling with oil is a pain in the butt. And also it would be visually less familiar. And in Rugrats, they show you both. Because there's the menorah that's, or the Hanukkah that's above the TV at the house, and then there's the oil one. And so you get to see all of it, and I think that's really cool. And so I don't have like a problem with the fact that they decided to, go with candles instead, because it's just simpler, and the structure of the episode is such that like stopping to explain oil versus candles is a waste of time and it doesn't matter. So I can't actually tell you the right answer because I'm always wrong apparently. But a really fun thing, oh go ahead.
Yeah. I discovered last year that allegedly I might have been lighting candles backwards my entire life. I was trying to be like to my family, hey, maybe we should change. And then, of course,
that's what
my
we
Jewish
do.
family was like, change?
That's why we've lasted so long.
No.
But, basically it. And, like, the only religion that beats us for age, and this one's a fudgy one, and Shamila, if you're here, this is something that you can comment on, is that Hinduism is older than we are by a little bit, but depending on how you look at Hinduism, it can be seen through a monotheistic lens. And so some Hindus jokingly or seriously say they're the oldest both monotheistic and polytheistic religion, and they're technically both right. But it's complicated. When you start getting into aspects of God and are those separate gods or not, it all gets real complicated. And this is how Christianity actually fits as a monotheistic religion, because the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, I think they're back to calling it these days, I don't know, are all seen as aspects of God. And then the whole thing with the saints breaks it all, but like this is not the day to pick on the Catholics. So, yeah, like, I know I've talked a lot this episode because I was kind of brought in as the expert with Bex to back me up. But, one of the reasons why the ending for Elena stuck so hard for me, so well, rather, is that it really actually highlights one of Judaism's strengths, which is its ability to change as needed to fit the situation. And one of the things that is a problem in some sects of modern Judaism today is an inability to change. And the whole idea, like, they litigated this, like literally litigated with like a Jewish court and everything back in the early aughts, that LGBT Jews were, acting within God's will as long as, the sex isn't, too frivolous, shall we say. And then the Reform communities, by and large, is very accepting of trans folks. The conservative movement, Judaism does not have a pope like Christianity. There is no, or like Catholicism specifically, excuse me. And doesn't have the same relationship with its priests as many sects of Christianity do. Each synagogue decides what they're going to do, and then each individual adult and their family decides what they're going to do. And if your synagogue is going in a direction that you don't like, you move synagogues. And if you're lucky enough that there's, options. And like, I grew up in a much less egalitarian synagogue than the way I was being raised at home, and the conflict there has influenced the way I observe Judaism as an adult, and that's because there wasn't a Reform synagogue in the neighborhood until I was in my 20s, which is because we had Orthodox representation, but we were definitely not doing that. And then this synagogue was what we jokingly call conservadox, because there were a lot of ways in which it was practically Orthodox, but that's a whole nother whatever. Just the idea that Jewish rabbis regularly go to protest at Black Lives Matter protests and against police violence because this end of Judaism sees that as part of our biblically assigned responsibility to tikkun olam, repair the world. And the justice delayed is justice denied, that comes from us. That is a paraphrase of something from some of the analysis that was done by the rabbis historically. And generally when Jews lean into that, they do pretty well. And they do pretty well whether they're helping themselves or they're helping, racially minoritized communities, the LGBTQ plus, etc. community. And that has really helped with the longevity of, as an ethno-cultural religious blob, is the fact that, we're...
Sam, I'm gonna annoy you here for a second because it fits. Corgis are better than people. Sam, don't you think I'm right?
No!
Listeners, there's a running gag here that we don't have time to explain.
But it's delightful.
But no,
Popcorn is a terrorist, Barky Boy is perfect. And we shall never agree.
Strike that, reverse it.
You're getting the gist of it.
Yes. But what is everyone's connection to Charles Dickens' classic Muppet Muppet Christmas Carol? No matter what Gonzo says.
To me, the first thing out of my mouth is Muppet Christmas Carol, and the first thing out of my mouth is Treasure Planet. So,
I mean, we can mention the Jim Carrey one if you have anything you want to say about that real quick.
Too much Nightmare Fuel for me. I haven't seen it.
It's an uncanny valley nightmare.
Yeah, I've actually never seen it myself. I'm sure we will have to cover it one day, but...
Yeah, we've seen the trailers, and the animation is a nightmare
What
in itself.
happened to Robert Zemeckis?
It's well cast.
It's horrifying.
Say what you want about the live-action movies that he's made in the past, because they
Let's-
run the gamut from great to terrible, but when he started doing, this mocap shit, what happened?
Something broke in his brain. Something...
I vote we don't ask questions we don't want answers to. No, I remember the strongest thing I remember about that specific adaptation was all of the press around it, because it was supposed to be such a flex of what was possible at the time. And I just thought it looked like an upged version of Ivor Express, and I don't mean that as a compliment.
The stuff they apparently did with the Ghost of Christmas Future sounds cool as shit. Just making it this skeletal shadow that doesn't physically show up, but, is on the walls. That sounds cool as shit. And I'd love to see that done in a theater space with puppets.
That is really cool.
And you know, that is part of the fun of Christmas Carol, is that, like, retellings of Christmas Carol, is that all the things you could come up with for the ghosts. That's like really half the fun. And Callie, you are welcome to talk about the Jefferson
I
Maze
saw a different stage version of Christmas Carol where the Ghost of Christmas Future was a mime.
Oh God! The scary.
That is
horrific, but incredible.
Choices were made.
Oh my
Choices
god.
were made.
Hey, no place is
Are
perfect.
they good
nightmares.
choices? Nobody can say, but there were choices made, and they were definitive ones. But I do think that the Jefferson Maze production that they did, I didn't get to see it unfortunately, but Jefferson Maze played every single character in A Christmas Carol in a one-man production on Broadway, and I wish I could have seen it because that sounds incredible, because we know Jefferson Maze can play 10, 12 different characters in a show at one time. Look at Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder.
How? That seems physically impossible.
I said that bitch. I was trying to figure out who the fuck it was, and then you said Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, and I went, that motherfucker. I think I actually got to see him because I got to see one of the last Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder shows on Broadway because my mother and I had been wanting to see it since the Thanksgiving Day Parade performance, and when we heard it was closing, my mom was like, fuck it, Christmas weekend, you and I are getting on a train and we're going to go see it. And the guy who originated the male lead had come back to do the final performances, so we got to see him do it, which was very interesting and very fun. But we are side tangenting hard.
Yes, we're not here to talk about Jim Carrey or Jefferson Maze. We are here to talk about the Muppets.
Tom, oh god, I just lost his name, but
A quick disclaimer for the following outtake. This was basically River doing a little religion alarm joke when Sam went on their tangent about how, no, Jesus was definitely not born on Christmas. And I just want to make my stance clear on that, since I'll admit I was not as clear as I would have liked to have been while this was being recorded. River, I love you and I definitely understand your concern, but let it be known, we will talk religion on this podcast. It's just inherent on a podcast that covers so much folklore and so much literature that it's going to be talking about religion. And if any of the Keep Christ in Christmas or War on Christmas crowd is mad about what Sam said, you can come and fucking fight me. I'll fight.
I've installed a little religion horde, and I believe we're getting too close to the religiosity of it all. Sam, I love you, but I don't want us getting murdered.
I'll sit in as the resident expert on this crap.
You were not present to do this during the Hanukkah episode. You should not be doing it here. We didn't have any religion alarm when we were talking about the Hanukkah episode.
I was also mostly kidding, but
Changing the subject! Or the one about the fucking couple who keeps buying opposite gifts for each other, but they sell the thing.
The Magi.
Yeah, that popped up. Like, I have no context for the original story of that other than the OG one, or like the one that has popped up in literally everything else. But that is sure a story that exists, and it's not one of my favorites, and I wish it would stop popping up, but that's just a me thing.
This is getting dangerous.
I like the Bert and Ernie one.
And we're not there yet. I mean, we were there, but then we had to jump back to talk about the Marley, so now we gotta get back there.
Yeah, to Marley and Marley.
Not you, Meredith. Meredith Braun.
Is Scrooge is sort of trying to words aren't working for me right now.
I don't think so. That's unless anyone has anything more to say about the present. Let's speak now or forever hold your Reese's Piece.
Does Star Trek have a Christmas Carol episode? I feel like they do. If they don't, I would be shocked.
The Ghost of Future Present No.
But they did also reveal the future Ghost of Future Past face in the Mickey Christmas Carol. It was Pete. I remember that.
God bless us! It's a miracle! It's a Christmas miracle!
It's a Christmas miracle. I could see it go either way.
This conversation just somehow remind me that Ghost of Girlfriend's Past technically counts for this.
There's a version, again, I keep circling back to it because it's one I usually watch, but in the George C. Scott one, they actually have a scene, like, they usually cut when he goes into his nephew's house. They actually have like a short scene where he's like in there and he's like interacting with Fred and his wife, and it's interesting seeing the Scrooge trying to be like friendly, and you can kind of tell he's not used to it, and he's like trying his best to reminisce. Like he's talking with Fred's wife, and he's just like, I was in love once. Can you believe that? I don't know, it's goofy to me just because of George C. Scott, and they just like this, the insane gruff George C. Scott voice trying to be kind.
Give cheeses to the Mises. Actually, don't do that. That's not a sanitary exercise of your time. Jazz, please cut that. I'm sorry.
It's in the singing of a street corner choir. It's going home and getting warm by the fire. Fuck.
This is Muppets One More Sleep Till Christmas, take 3, I think at this point. I'm very tired. Pressing play now. Oh god, what is it doing? What is it doing? Ah!